For our last set of videos, we're going to take everything we've learned so far and put it together to make a script to make our jobs easier. Before we get started, make sure you've downloaded the materials for this video. I put mine on my desktop, so I'll go ahead and CD into them now. The task we've received from our boss this time is to take a set of images and then turn them into a folder with a bunch of subfolders for each letter of the alphabet. That way we can give all these images to our designers and they can find the ones they're looking for more easily. We'll call this script Packager, and we'll start by creating a new file called packager.sh. The first thing we want to do is make sure the user has passed in the directory that all of these images are contained in. To do that, we'll use the getops command that we learned about last time. This time, we'll just expect one flag. It'll be the D flag accompanied by some argument. Now we can just write the case statement again to look for the D flag. Then, whenever the D flag is found, we'll copy the argument into a variable called dir. Now that we're checking for the argument, we need to do a guard in our script to make sure that the user actually passed something in. If they didn't, then we'll exit with a non-zero exit code and tell them to try again. To make sure they've passed something in, we can use an if with a test to make sure that the dir variable is not empty. Let's go ahead and test this out real quick to make sure it works. So once we'll call it with no directory, and as we see it exits right away and tells us to provide a directory. Let's go ahead and see what our folder full of images is called. It looks like it's called icons, so we can just pass that into our script. Whoops, looks like we forgot to pass in the D flag, so let's try that again. And this time actually have the D flag on there. And with that, we get no error message. Alright, now that we're making sure we have a directory full of images to look at, we can move on to the next section. Go back to editing your script, and next we'll create a new directory to put our results in. To do that, first we'll make a variable with the name of the new directory. And then we'll use the makedir command to create this directory. Now that we know where we want to put all of our images, next we need to create a subfolder for each letter of the alphabet, and then put each image in that subfolder. To do that, we'll use a for loop. First, let's just try and loop through all the images in dir. Next, for each of these images, we need to see what the first letter of the image name is. Luckily, dealing with substrings in Bash is actually pretty straightforward. Let's make a new variable called firstLetter. And then we can just use colons to set up a range of this string to pull out. We surround it with the $ curly braces to evaluate it, and then we say image, :0, :1. And this just means we should take the name of the image, start at 0 and go until 1, and then evaluate that and put it into first letter. Now that we know the first letter, we want to make a new directory for each of these letters. To do that, we can just make another variable called target_dir. So the target_dir is where we want to end up putting this particular image. One thing we need to think about is if we've already seen an image that starts with this letter, then this directory will already exist. If we haven't, then we need to make it ourselves. To make this work, we can just use an if that checks for the existence of the target directory. If it does exist, we can just echo that it already exists. And then if it doesn't exist, we can make it and then tell the user we've made it. Finally, once we know that the target directory is actually there, we can copy over the image from the original directory to our new one. Now that we have all this set up, it's time to go back and try our script one more time. So if we hit up a few times, we should find where we've already used it before. And we're passing in the icons folder we want to start from. Alright, and it looks like we create an F folder, and then we don't create it the second time. So let's go ahead and open this and take a look at the results. As we see, we have our packaged images folder, and then inside we have subfolders for each of the letters of the alphabet that these images started with. And then inside we have all of the images that we were expecting.